burning over $380,000 of taxpayers' money each day. This was revealed in an analysis of the Baroness Hallett's investigation into the pandemic, which has been ongoing for about 2 years. The Taxpayers Alliance pressure group used publicly available data to calculate the costs, and here's a breakdown. The investigation cost over $88 million in the last financial year, during which hearings also took place, and while the findings are not expected to be tabled until 2026, the investigation as a whole has cost over $119 million. The estimated total cost is expected to reach a staggering $253 million. To draw a comparison, these costs will supersede the $247 million that the country spent on its costliest investigation until now, which was into the murder of 13 people in Bloody Sunday in 1972, and that case went on for about 12 years. However, this is not where the figures completely stop. A separate report reveals that Whitehall has had to shed an additional amount of $126,000 each day in the past year. The cost addition of legal advice and the payment of staffers or even record handlers is part of the added expenditure. But public sector organisations are expected to bear extra costs just for providing evidence to Hallett. Experts have warned against the functionality of the investigation and the lessons that the UK can learn from the findings. They've expressed concern over the structure of the investigation, calling it, quote, overly expensive. However, a COVID inquiry spokesperson has said that the investigation was bound to be expensive. The spokesperson added that it touches upon all government departments involved in the pandemic work, that too across all four countries in the UK. They furthered their ground by stating that all financial records related to the investigation are made publicly available for transparency. Meanwhile, the executive of the Taxpayers Alliance, John O'Connell, has said that by the end of the investigation, the country will be left with nothing more than a, quote, eye-watering bill. He added that the inquiry should be short, decisive, crisp, and not an expensive political drama. Separately, the findings are expected to be published starting later this year for the government to start working on those findings. Well, for more on this, we're joined by our correspondent John Bevere from Bristol. John, there's something slightly ironic about the COVID-19 pandemic, which of course cost the UK an enormous amount of money and is still having repercussions today, and that an inquiry is simply adding to that bill. Why is it so expensive? And give us your analysis on this criticism.
Yeah, it is incredibly expensive, isn't it? When we look at it, this eye-watering figure that we're hearing in the UK press today, £300,000 a day. That's 380,000 US dollars a day, as you say. A lot of that money going on things like legal fees. There was a lot of money spent on setting up the inquiry as well, so that has brought the averages up. And one of the reasons it's also so expensive is this inquiry has been going around the country. It's been on tour, hearing from different people in different parts of the UK. So the inquiry itself has already been in London, where it started, and then it's also been in Edinburgh in Scotland and in Cardiff in Wales, and now it's in Belfast in Northern Ireland. So that's adding to the cost as well. And yeah, best estimates are this could cost in the region of £200 million. That's just over 250 million US dollars. So of course, a hugely expensive inquiry, but those involved say that there's a lot for them to investigate, and they need to hear from people, and they really need to get deep into this. It started in June of 2022, but really got going with public hearings after that. We are going to have some of the findings be published in the coming months, which the government can start responding to, but there is no set end for this inquiry. There is no exact date in terms of when this all has to be done by, and that has drawn some criticism from people who say this open-ended nature of it means it has the possibility to just keep spending money. But those involved, as I say, very much saying that it is worth the money. This is, as Boris Johnson put it, putting the government's response to the COVID pandemic under the microscope. Those involved would argue that if there were another pandemic, then they need to learn the lessons from what went wrong and what went right last time around, so that they can improve on it if we found ourselves in a similar situation. So those are the two opposing views in terms of whether it's costing too much money or whether actually it's worth spending the money now so that there could be a better response to any future pandemics. But it is, of course, when you see these sort of eye-watering figures, and especially that when we have a cost of living crisis here and we have a government who say that there's not much in the way of spare money floating around, then hearing these figures is, of course, going to raise a lot of questions.
Absolutely, no end in sight for this inquiry. John Bevere joining us live from Bristol. Many thanks for that insight.